Okay, gentlemen, overall average rate. These can be difficult, but not too bad, okay? Here is the equation. Overall average rate equals the overall distance divided by the overall time, okay? So let's go to example 38.7 on page 273. Frank and Judy drove for 100 miles at 50 miles per hour. They then drove 180 miles at 60 miles per hour. What is Frank and Judy's overall average rate over the whole trip? Well, overall average rate is overall distance over overall time. Frank and Judy went 100 miles, then they went 180 miles. So they have 280 miles as their overall distance. Now we need their overall time. Well, they went 100 miles at 50 miles per hour. How long did that take them? 100 miles times 50 miles per hour. Excuse me, not times. 100 miles divided by 50 miles per hour. So 50 miles per hour would be, it would be 50 miles per 1 hour, right? So if you're going to divide that, that would be multiplied by the reciprocal, 1 hour, 50 miles, right? These are miles as well. You can see that the miles on the top cancels with the miles on the bottom. Just the labels. So you get 100 hours over 50. So it took them 2 hours to go that first 100 miles. So we have 2 hours, common sense, I hope, to go the 100 miles. Because 50 miles per hour for 2 hours is 100 miles. Okay, then they drove 180 miles at 60 miles per hour. Well, 180 divided by 60 miles per hour. You flip this one and multiply. Because if you want time, it's distance over rate, right? Distance divided by rate. Time equals distance divided by rate. Distance distance 180 miles divided by the rate, 60 miles per hour. So you're going to multiply this times 1 hour over 60 miles, and you get 3 hours. So the first 100 miles, it took them 2 hours. The next 180 miles took them 3 hours, for a total of 5 hours. So the overall average rate is overall distance, 280, divided by overall time, which we just figured out is 2 hours plus 3 hours. And if you do that out, you get 56 miles per hour. Overall average rate equals overall distance over overall time. All right, let's do another one. This other example. This one's more difficult, okay? This one's a little bit trickier. Let's take a look at this guy. Frank and Judy do a lot of driving. Frank and Judy drove for 100 miles at 50 miles per hour. They then drove 180 miles at 60 miles per hour. How fast must they drive for the last 120 miles to have an overall average rate of 60? Overall 60. Well, we know their overall distance. It's 100 miles, 180 miles, 120 miles. So that is a total of 400 miles, right? We're trying to figure out the overall average rate. It's the overall distance, which is 400 miles, over overall time. So the overall average rate is the overall distance, which we know is 400 miles, divided by overall time. Well, let's see. How fast did they have to drive for the last 120 miles to have an overall average rate of 60? They want the overall average rate to be 60. Well, we know the first leg took 2 hours. First leg took 2 hours, right? The overall average rate is overall distance divided by overall time. 2 hours for that one. Then they drove 180 miles at 60 miles per hour. Well, that's 3 hours to do that one. And then this next rate, we don't know for 120 miles. We don't know. So this is the rate that we're looking for, right? But we know that we want to end up with that overall average rate to be 60. You see how that equation works? There's only one variable now. That's the last rate that we'd like to know. So we have 400 divided by 5 plus r equals 60, technically over 1. You can cross multiply these, okay? So 400 equals 60 times 5 plus r. Distribute here and here. You get 300 plus 60r. You subtract 300 from each side, you get 100 equals 60r. Divide by 60. Divide by 60. Whoop! 10 over 6 is 5 over 3. Okay? 5 over 3, right? Now, that's how long it's going to take him. Okay? Sorry, not R. We're not looking for rate. We're looking for that missing time. Excuse me. We're looking for that missing time, so I'll use T. Right? Because the overall average rate is the overall distance over overall time. 400 miles total, took them 2 hours, then 3 hours. The last leg of the trip, that's the time we're trying to figure out. And it has to average out to 60 miles per hour overall rate. So you get 400 over 5 hours plus T hours equals 60, technically over 1. Cross multiply, solve for T. You get 1 2/3 hours. 1 2, that's what T equals. So, the rate of the third leg must equal the distance of the third leg divided by the time of the third leg. That's 120 over 5/3, which is 72 miles per hour. You just got to keep plugging away at these. They're tough, but you'll get it.